Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren. In today's episode, I have Kristy. She is a wellness coach and Reiki master. So, Kristy, welcome. So excited for our conversation today. So, what inspired you? What inspired your decision to leave corporate America and pursue your purpose?
Yes. So thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and share my story. I finally am feeling comfortable enough to kind of get out there and start sharing it. So I was just putting out there that my journey has been divinely guided, I would say. So it originally started with me just I had a lot of health issues that Western medicine couldn't really help me with, like undiagnosable allergies. I had knee surgery, but my knee wasn't healing. Troubles when I had my daughter. So just all of that led me to find alternative options to look into, like how to be healthy and take care of myself. Not to mention all the stress from corporate America, getting burned out and tired and trying to be the perfect everything. So perfect mom, perfect wife, perfect manager, perfect employee, the list goes on and on for us. So that is very tiring. And as I started to do all of this healing myself, I wanted to make it easier for others to do the same thing and to learn how, like, it's okay not to be perfect and it's okay just to do your best on a daily basis. So that's kind of like what started my mindset with that. But then obviously in 2020, where many of us had epiphanies and awakenings, I started having like visions in my dreams that were like, you need to, like, it started with like Bible verses, and am not one that ever read the Bible. So I'm like, is this a real verse? And I'd go and I'd look it up and it would be. And I'm like, okay, like, what are you trying to tell me? So then that led me down rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And it was basically like one vision was I saw like just a veil dropping. And it kind of led me to like, okay, what's going on? And a lot of people are coming into like a spiritual awakening and seeing things for how they really are and coming into their truth and their purpose. So that kind of just led me, like I said, down all of these rabbit holes. And then one day I had known for a while I wanted to kind of go into coaching or like consulting, because being a manager in corporate America, like my biggest passion was my people and getting them to where they wanted to go in life, or helping them reduce stress and just kind of helping them through all of that. And one day like this, on Instagram, there was just a post from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Now, I'd been looking for a health coach that really fit me program for a while. And the day that this popped up was actually in the end of, I think it was November 2021, when all the stars aligned in the sky for like the first time. I forget which planets and stars, but I was like, that was the day it popped up. And I'm like, okay, like I'm doing this. And I just like called and I pretty much immediately signed up. And I was like, holy crap, I just did that. So when I started taking their classes, what I loved most about it is it was all encompassing. So it's not, a lot of the programs for coaching is just like nutrition and physical fitness, and that's not who I am. So it brought in like the emotional component, the mental component, and the spiritual component. And like going through that course, I really loved the spiritual and the mental components that came with it. So as I was doing that, I started getting more involved with people that, did yoga or did meditation, or my friends like, you got to try Reiki. So I had done, like I said, I had issues with my knee that they couldn't figure out. Like I had an injury, I needed surgery, and then afterwards my knee wouldn't heal. And I went to specialists and they're just like, yeah, we don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. And I'm like, okay, I'm 30. I'm about to get married. I'm not walking down the aisle on crutches. Like, I want to have kids. I want to chase them around. Like, we're not just going to throw up our hands and be like, okay. So I actually went to this woman who does acupressure, because I don't like needles. But she also does like all this other energy work and healing work and stuff like that. So as soon as I walked into the room, she like read me like a book. And it was just like, how did you know all this stuff about me? I just met you. So she did her thing. And at the end, she goes, your knee is still trying to protect itself. So it it doesn't understand that it doesn't need to anymore. So she's like, I cleared out the energy and you need to talk to it and remind it that it's okay. And it doesn't need to be protective anymore and all of that. I woke up the next morning, my knee was back to normal. So I was like, oh my goodness, I've been to multiple doctors, physical therapy, cortisone shots, all of these things. And literally, she just realigned the energy to flow through there, and we talked to it. And within 24 hours, my swelling and the fluid was gone. So that led me down a whole bunch of other rabbit holes for alternative healing. And once I experienced Reiki, I feel like it opens me up to that energies, which I have been attuned to my whole life. So we could go back to when I was a kid, being able to sense things and hear things and feel things that weren't there, that I kind of shut off. And I feel like it reopened all of those things. And I remember going to a group Reiki event where it was like this just summer solstice event. So they were doing like Reiki and meditation and all of this stuff. When the Reiki master started to do her thing, my body literally lit up and was on fire. And I'm like, I have questions. Like, this is not like I was sweating. I like could feel it. I was pulsating. And I'm like, I need to understand what just happened. So that led me to do Reiki and incorporate that into my practice. So now, let's see, I've been February 3rd, it marks a year that I left corporate America to do this full time. And with all the shifts in the energy and everything that's going on with 2024 within the last 3 months, I feel like someone just flipped a switch and my business is growing like exponentially month over month, which I mean, I did the work, but it was like I've been doing this work for a year and it was like, okay, like I'm slowly gaining traction, month over month, but all of a sudden it's like just turned on come December and I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I love that you say that because I think a lot of people, even probably me, like last year, kind of were at this place of like, we're doing the work and we're not seeing it like in, income streams. And I think a lot of people, I think for 2024, a lot of people are feeling that. I know that I am too.
Yep,
It was like one day I woke up and I was like, okay. And I have all these messages and, like my business
yep,
has growing. I've been doing other things, the podcast has been getting more
yep,
successful and all that stuff. So I feel like sometimes when you just kind of you're focused on doing things and you're just focused
mhm,
on just, trusting the
yep,
universe and letting go, and not trying to, I feel like a lot of people, I was in like another class on Tuesday and one of my friends is in there with me and her biggest block has been having to have control over everything.
yep,
And I just know, because I'm, very close with her, I just know that, I kept saying surrender and she didn't really know what that meant. And I felt like, okay, so like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's just like it was that control piece of like she was controlling every aspect of the outcome of things. And the
yep.
universe does not allow you to do that. It
No,
literally makes you're like, I don't know if you read tarot cards, but
yeah,
those tower moments constantly, like after another, to the point that you're like, okay, I'm just going to let things be how they are. And then I'm just going to like, kind of put my hands up. And I feel like now, because I've always wanted, like, what was her block? Like, she's so successful. Like, what's going on? And then she said that and I was like, oh my goodness, that's literally the block. Or accepting, that's another thing too, like accepting your body the way it is. Even if you're 200 pounds, you can get down to 150, but you have to accept yourself
yes,
and love yourself like completely, right? Like it's
first.
kind of like how your knee, like you were protecting your knee and then knowing that you don't need to do that anymore, you released that and it was like, oh, okay. And then like it's not magic, it's just what it is. But I
Yeah.
mean, some people could call it magic, but it just released. And I feel like just hearing that and you saying that is just another example of that is very powerful, regardless if it's your knee or if it's like an injury or if it's in like your business, right? So
Yes. And I'm
I love
glad you brought that up because it came to me like before this, and I'm like, oh, I wonder if we're going to talk about this today. But like, I feel like, especially like, you're on Instagram and there's so many people throwing so much information at you, and you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do this. And I find that when I start listening to them and trying to push really hard, so like your friend, controlling the outcome, controlling
Yeah.
what I'm doing, I get blocked and I don't get
Yeah.
appointments and I don't get, as soon
Yeah.
as I'm like, I'm doing my thing because I know the universe is telling me what I need to do and they will bring me who I need to see. And like, I don't feel the need to post every day or to put a reel out every day because when I get reels, like they just like channel in through me. Like, this is the
Yeah.
message for today. This is what you need to share today. And
Yeah.
sometimes I don't get anything. But if I try to force it,
Yeah.
I actually don't get, like, everything slows down. So I've
Yeah.
learned to just, like you said, let it go. When the messages or the inspiration comes, I put it out there. And like sometimes I won't be putting anything out there and I start getting followers. And I'm like, oh, like I think they're getting some of the content that was divinely inspired to put out
Yeah.
just later on. So I'm like, the more I just let go, like you said, and don't put those limits on myself, like this is what I need to be. You have to like know that your subconscious, your higher self, or whatever you want to call it, the universe, God, whatever, knows
Right.
better. And when you
Yeah.
say what you want, it actually limits you from being as successful as you could be. So I've learned to just be like, this is like the minimum of what I want. If you want to do something better or more, I'll take it. But
Yes.
here's like the minimum. And thank you for everything else that you'll
Yeah.
send my way.
Yeah, I actually was just channeling for a client a couple days ago, maybe was it Monday? What's today? Thursday? Yeah. So I think it was like Monday or Tuesday. And she said to me, I really wish I could be like you. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? Like
Yeah.
you're a projector. What do you
Yeah.
mean? Like I know that I'm a projector too, but and I said, here's the thing, and this is what I've actually just started doing. I don't care like what everybody else is doing. Like I used to care, and it's like now I can show up on social media
Yeah.
one time a week. Obviously, it's my business, so I have to show up sometime,
Right.
but and it's just this meme that I really hesitate to post it because I don't want to seem very egotistical, but it's literally the truth of what my reality is right now, that the less work I do, the more money I make. And
Right.
it's not with everything. And I feel like it's only certain people like projectors, manifestors, they
Yeah.
are very good at doing less and making more. And it's not about the money situation, but most of the time, like my financial situation or my financial security was because I was pushing too hard. So I was like, well, let me stop pushing so hard. Right. And then I was like, oh, okay. So it's like very effortlessly and I'm not controlling stuff and I'm just like letting things flow. And I know that that's one of my life lessons that I have to learn in this lifetime. So it's like, wow, I might as well learn it now. Right. So I always tell people, like their self-worth should not match what they're doing in their business. Their self-worth should, like when people say you should just pay, you should just charge what you're worth. I hate that. It actually triggers me because I'm like, no. Because if somebody thinks that they're worth $10,000 for a coaching program, they could be, but
Yeah.
not everybody's going to pay that, right? It's like that's actually not like unless you're like Tony Robbins or you're like Mel Robbins or
Yeah.
you know all the like the top like names, nobody's going to pay that because you don't have an authority yet in this world. So it's like, I don't like when people give that advice. And
Yeah.
lately with Pluto and Aquarius, I'm like, this advice, these are the people that had a bad experience with something, like it could be with a psychic, it could be with
Yeah.
Reiki, it could be with whatever. They're giving advice, and it's just like, so they're giving advice to people that are asking about it because they're intrigued by it. And it's usually these mom groups that I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, you must have had a bad experience because that's actually not how that's not how it is. Right. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that things are being exposed, especially with now Mars and Aquarius too. So it's like things are very chaotic right now.
Yes.
And it's just right in time for the, election too by the end of this year. So it's like, hopefully, with things changing and people changing, I kind of see that people are like questioning things, like the things I've always questioned, like that doesn't make sense. Like, why is this happening? All that stuff. It's all like the people, those people, I'm not going to say that because it's
Yeah.
pot. Like, I don't want to be blacklisted, are not able to hide things anymore. So I love that.
And I'm totally on the same page with you. So if anyone does go and check out my website, like I don't have my pricing really on there because I want to do the free consultation. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to charge $10,000. What if that limits someone from being able to actually do the work because they're really motivated and want to do it? Like I never want price to stop someone from being
Yeah.
able to pursue something.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't work, but maybe we can work something out. And like, that's just how I run my practice. And when I'm not posting, it's because I'm actually spending the time with my clients that I have,
Yeah.
because that is more important to me than making sure I get out there to people that may never buy my service. So
Right. Or you're being a mom, or
yeah, being a
or
mom,
you're
living my
actually
life.
just doing other things, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So the other question that I have is, like, when you shifted into your mindset, or embrace that positive thinking, because like it's obviously not always positive, like it's that balance, right? Has there been any like systems or tools that you have used through your journey?
Yes. Oh my God, so many. So, so let's see if I can remember them all. Um, so my journey with my mindset shift really came in my 20s. I was tired of being sick all the time. So I was also sick all the time. And I thought I was eating right, eating healthy, like working out, all the stuff, but I still didn't feel great. So I read this book and it was called Chill Out and Get Healthy. And like the first portion of it is really about how you talk to yourself. And it was the first time that I was like, huh, I never realized how big of an impact that could make. So I started then in, just in some of the aspects in my family. They're on one side of my parents' family, they're all very negative. Well, not all of them, but there's a good chunk of them that like are very negative, have a negative outlook. Even, my dad sometimes can have that. He watches the news all the time, and then we get into that
Oh yeah.
all those.
If you watch
So
the
I'm
news,
like,
then you have a
yeah,
negative.
yes, you have a negative outlook. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I really don't want to have that. And then being my job, I want to always focus that everyone would make fun of me because they're like, you could turn anything into a positive. I'm like, there's always like a lesson to learn, or
Yeah.
like we always tend to focus. It's our natural instinct. It's our survival instinct. Let's focus on the negative so I can stay alive, or I can eat tomorrow, or whatever it may be. But just learning how to kind of listen to yourself. And so whether that's journaling, like what do you want to say about yourself? And what I do with my clients a lot is we figure out what stories they're telling themselves right now, like what is holding them back, what do they say to themselves, and then rewriting how they want their story to be. Because we never really slow down and think about like, okay, like what life do I want to live? Like what do I need to be happy? Like how do I want to show up to other people? We just do our thing. So journaling is a big piece. I have this app. I don't know if you use it, the Insight Timer. It's
Oh
got,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there's the free version on there. So it's got, the affirmations, it's got meditations, it's got breath work, it's got the music. So like when I'm having like one of the things I did was the self-abundance thing, like trying to change my mindset around money so I could let it flow to me easily, because we're conditioned from growing up, like you have to work so hard for everything, and like you have to stress about it. And it's like, you don't have to stress about it. Um, and yeah, just reading a lot of books, and just like I tell everybody, like try to talk to yourself like your best friend. Unless you need to give your best friend tough love, most likely you're cheering them on and, applauding them, or being like, it's fine, like it's okay to feel that way, like it's, you'll get up, you'll get at them tomorrow. Like you won't have very many friends if you probably talk to them and
Right.
criticize them all the time. Yeah, we do that to ourselves.
Yes.
Um, so it's kind of just like make sure reminding them that to talk to themselves like they would their best friend, because like you said, like it doesn't matter how you look or where you are today. If you don't love yourself for who you are today, it's going to be near impossible to do that self-improvement work to get to where you want to go.
Right. I know. And now it kind of brings back to yesterday was Valentine's Day, and well, when we're recording this, but, I I see so many people like, make it just a day about, I really wish Valentine's Day was a day like for yourself. I feel like, especially moms, like, why can't Valentine's Day just be about you? And
That's
most of the time, I feel like for me, I love giving gifts, but I don't always like, gift giving is not my love language. Like,
yeah.
it's more like quality time. And I think I've done this with my daughter too. Like for her birthday, like some of my family is kind of like divided, and not existent or whatever. And I don't even know if they'll listen to this, but that's just the truth.
Yep.
And they're always like, they'll give gifts, which is great, or money or whatever, but they won't show up for her party. And this has happened last December. And I said to my mom, gosh, I wish that they would realize that what I want is not a gift, or what she wants is not a gift. She just wants like that time. And I feel like that is what is the gift, is like time. And I feel like a lot of people, spending time with the people that you love versus buying them a gift. I truly think everybody would really enjoy that. Now, some people love gifts, like, don't get me wrong, like they love that getting gifts from other people. But I've noticed just through, talking with other moms or talking with other women, that they would rather just be able to be by themselves, or, just have time to themselves instead of like, oh, let's go to dinner, that kind of thing. I don't know if you like that or you've noticed that, but with Valentine's Day, I kind of reflected on what would I really want for Valentine's Day versus like, I don't want candy. I don't want flowers. It's nice, right? But it's like, I want like a massage. I want like time that I can stare at the wall for 2 hours of my life.
I know it's
Yeah.
that self-care time that we don't
Yeah.
take the time to do for ourselves. But, that's one of the workshops I teach, is like how to reconnect. And it's really reconnecting to the divine feminine, but like slowing
Yes.
down,
Yes.
learning to, going back to like the mindset shift, like we all have those two voices in our head.
Right.
The ego, the brain, ego side of it is very loud and lets you know that it's present. And the heart tends to be more quieter. So like, I know when you and I talked about my human design, it
Yeah.
was, to learn silence. And I was like, okay, what does that mean for me? And
Yeah.
then as I was thinking about it and reflecting on it, I'm like, holy crap, it's everything I do in my coaching. Like and my Reiki, like I'm teaching people to slow down and to quiet that loud voice so they can hear the whispers of their heart and their soul and what they should be doing, which you can only really hear in the silence. Um, and it was funny because I was listening to someone else that I follow a lot, that's kind of on the same wavelength as us. And someone had mentioned like, to raise your vibration, to slow down. And she's like, I don't agree with that. But I think she was thinking about it like in real life, like the faster things go, the higher the
Right.
vibration usually. But in
Yeah.
order to get there, people that aren't there yet, you need to learn to slow down with the busyness of, soccer practice, taking your kids everywhere, work, family engagements. Like we never even slow down enough to think what day it is or what time it is or what I should have for
Right.
breakfast. Like spend that time with our family because we're so busy like this, doing everything we've been told that we need to do to be successful, that we never really stop to think like, well, what do I really want though? Like, is this the life I want to live? Like to your point, like you'd rather have your family show up, but they're not even slowing down to think that that's important. They're just like, oh, everybody wants the gifts, so we're going to give the gifts or we're going to give the
Right.
money. And they're just stuck in the patterns. And if we don't slow down to figure out what those patterns are, what our life lessons are, what our heart really wants to tell us, like we won't be able to do what we want to do and elevate and kind of live the life that you and I are starting to learn to live right now.
Right. Yeah. And I was going to say, going back to like, a lot of people, when they disconnect from their family, mine kind of started when I started to speak up for myself.
Mhm.
And I was like the black sheep of the family. And it's like, I distanced my daughter from that because I was like, I'm not dealing with this. Like, I know the narcissistic traits that you guys play. It's like, we wouldn't be invited to some birthday parties. And, my parents still go. And I'll sometimes let my daughter go because I'm like, it's not my fault that, it's not her
Right.
fault that her, cousins, moms and dads are so toxic or whatever, but I don't go. Like I just, and they're like, where's Lauren? And it's like, she doesn't feel like coming. My mom would always give excuses. Oh, she has this. And I'm like, no, tell them I don't want to come. There's no need for you to lie. I don't like to be around them. And I'm only saying that for people that are listening, because I feel like a lot of people feel guilty or are made to
Mhm.
feel guilty that they actually just don't want to be around people that they don't be around. And I'm so far of like, if I don't want to go somewhere, I'm not going.
Right. You're
So it's
setting your
like,
healthy
yeah,
boundaries, right?
yeah. And when it comes down to boundaries, because some people say, oh, well, I can't do that, but you could do that. Like if you really
Yeah.
truly wanted to do that, because I don't want to go somewhere that I don't want to be, and then I don't know how to be fake. I've never really knew how to be fake. So it's like they're gonna know that I don't want to be there. So why should I go? Like I should have just
And then
stayed
it
home.
perpetuates
Right.
the cycle, right? Because
Right.
I'm the same way. Like I
Yeah.
can't lie, I can't be fake. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you can just tell.
Yeah.
And it's like you can still be a nice person and you can still
Yeah.
love these people,
Yeah.
but like the way you love them is by staying away so that you
Right.
don't put everybody in that toxic
Right.
situation
Yeah.
and you protect your energy and your boundaries.
Right. Yeah. So and it's like, you don't want to be around me because I don't want to be around you. And I'm going to project that. And it's not like, it's just easier that you stay there. Like I always make sure I love them from a distance. I am not, bitter towards them. I've healed that part. But when I started sticking up for myself, especially when my own father wouldn't stick up for himself, I started sticking up for him. Not that was my place, but
Yeah.
then they were like, whoa, 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 like what's going on? And then it's just like I distance myself because I'm going this path, you're going that, you're going down here, and that's
Yeah.
okay. I don't care. But I'm just, you're not allowed in my world. Like that's it. And it's like they'll come around sometimes and she'll make, it's mainly my aunts will make different comments and I'll say what I need to say or I ignore them. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's just funny because it's just like they always act like they're the victim. And like now looking at it, like I'm like, gosh, you're 50, 60, 70 years old. And I'm like, I can't even imagine like acting like that. I was like, I'm over here like you breaking generational curses, which I knew that I needed to do.
Yeah.
And you're over here acting like poor you. Like you're a 6-year-old child again. So
Yeah.
it's actually really funny. But for whatever reason, I needed to say that for people struggling with boundaries
Okay.
or
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people out there like that.
yeah,
Again, that just goes right in line with what I coach, right?
yeah,
So it's just interesting because it's, exactly what I do. And then like people don't understand, like it's okay to protect your energy and to
yeah,
protect yourself. Um, when it comes to breaking those curses and stuff, that you're teaching your daughter that it's okay to like step
yeah,
up and be your authentic self and not have judgment from others stop you from doing what you're doing.
yeah,
And it doesn't mean that you're not caring and it doesn't mean you're not loving. It just means you are prioritizing yourself over others for your own health reasons, right? Mental health, probably physical health.
yeah,
And people, we're always taught, especially as, women and females, like, don't, you're too emotional, you got to hold everything in, like you're just crazy, or like you shouldn't feel that way, or just deal with it, or you have to care for everybody else. We're never really taught like it's okay if you start to do things for yourself, like going back to Valentine's Day, like, oh, you're just being selfish. Like, why don't you, give, like we give,
yeah,
and we don't have the expectation of receiving. And that's
right.
what I think we need to flip in this script right now is it's okay
Yeah,
to receive and it's okay to receive love and it's okay to have boundaries.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I love that. And especially when you say receive, because here's the thing about like just regular society and like receiving. Most times, if you like have that expectation, most people you say to me, oh, well, I'll just get disappointed because I'm not going to be able. And I'm like, well, is the love that you're receiving like in a gift form? Or
yeah.
is it like, are you open to receiving just love as like a hug or something? Because the thing about it is when I released pretty much all my toxic family members with when I was going through different
Mhm.
stuff, same thing with friends, like I release them with love things. And there's other things that have came up. Actually, my daughter was at karate yesterday, and somebody that really really close friend had lost her husband, and then his family was there. Now I haven't talked to her in years, like I had to cut that off a while ago just by a lot of deception that she's done to me. And I give people chances all the time, and this is the crazy part. I was not even bothered by them. I noticed them and I was like, of course I was like, oh shit. And then it was
Yeah.
just like, okay, like, and I just kind of focused on my daughter doing karate and all that stuff. And I was like, and then I was thinking in my mind, like, I could feel them staring at me. And I am the person that is going to try to, like, I don't try to make people feel uncomfortable, but apparently my boyfriend says I do. And he's like, Don't even say anything to them. And I was like, I'm going to, because like, why would I ignore them? They're staring at me. Like, why?
Right.
I'm just going to say, hey.
They
Now
want a
he's like, are you
connection.
going to ask them how they are? I was like, I don't know, because I really don't care. So maybe I'll just say, hey. And then, I just said, hey, I didn't know that you came to karate. And it was just very like, they they were very taken back because I guess it's like they're like
Yeah.
that bully energy, like don't
Hmm.
talk to me, that kind of thing. And here I am
Yeah.
like, hey, I didn't know you came to karate. And I was very, positive, very like loving. And then it was like that was it. But it's funny how that was 4 or 5 years ago, and you're still holding on to that
Yeah.
situation. I'm like, gosh, like I mean, I understand it, but it just goes back to, gosh, like there's just people that hold on to stuff, and it's just like that is literally what can make you physically, mentally,
Yes.
emotionally, and physically sick.
And I
So,
think that's what people need to understand too, is like you
yeah,
holding on to that does nothing to you. You're fine.
right.
Like
Yeah,
it's you that it sits in your field and then it starts to
yeah,
manifest in so many different ways. And that's why I love Reiki, because we can get that out
yeah.
when we're willing to let it go. Like, right. So whether it's this life, future timelines, past timelines, if we have to cut energetic cords, like whatever it is, like holding on to any of that stuff doesn't do any harm to the other person. It
Right,
only harms yourself. So that's why that forgiveness is so important and self-love is so important. Like, how much are you willing to hold on
right,
to try to hurt other people? Like, again, everything boils down to love, right?
right.
Love of
Yeah.
yourself, love of your others.
Yeah. I just had this conversation, and then I want to talk about your concept of
Yeah.
Reiki and how it has helped you. But um somebody had said to me, I'm not forgiving them, I'll never forgive them. And I said, I want to hear your perspective, but from my perspective, I was like, forgiveness. Now, when I was going through my healing journey too, when I first started, when my mentor had said about forgiveness, I was like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Like, I am not doing that. Like, my ex-husband has stole pretty much my hat. Like, I have to pay him. I paid for everything. It was all like, I want my money back. He's giving me my money back, all this stuff. And it's just like, she's like, no, that's not it. You're not getting your money back. You need to forgive. And I was like, what? It was like a huge, like I ran myself right into a wall, because it was like, and then I started to say, okay, so people do the same thing with body shaming. And it's like, you can't shame yourself out of things. And I didn't realize that until I actually went through it too. And just seeing other people go through it, it's like, you have to love yourself through it. And not that I ever will forgive him and let him back into my life, but I forgave him. You have to forgive people for not being sorry, because you're not going to ever hear a sorry.
Right.
Or if it is a sorry, it's not a genuine, I love,
Right.
like from a love space that you can heal, because that's not what it's here for. So when I tell people, like when I do things with clients about forgiveness, like the forgiveness letter, I have them write forgiveness letters to everybody. And what I've noticed, and I did the same exact thing, was I forgot to write one to myself. And it was like, why? And I always said to myself, why do I always forget about myself? But then I realized, oh, because it's just that conditioning that you got to give, 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 give.
Yep.
And then you might, if you're worthy enough, receive. And it's just like, no, I always teach people, no, I want you guys. So then when I tell people to write forgiveness, they start out with everybody else. And I'm like, no, you're going to write one to yourself first, because that's the hardest one. And then write one to everybody else. And then they're like, oh, do I have to give it to them? I'm like, no, you don't have to give it to them. Like, you just, shred it up. You can write it around a
Burn
full
it. Yeah.
moon, new moon, whatever. But yeah, forgiveness is not about anybody else but yourself. And I feel like the general population thinks forgiveness is for everybody else, and it's not.
Yeah. It's no, I agree with all of that. And I think it goes back to that control thing, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to, so I've had, a couple clients recently ask me, like, how do you forgive or how do you let go when people treat you so poorly or whatever? And I go, what the aha moment was for myself was that we're all on separate journeys. We all have our own life lessons to learn. And a lot about how people treat you is really not about you, it's about them. So it's that whole
Right.
mirror concept, right? So I've learned, like, just what you said, your husband said that you trigger people. Like, I tend to trigger people because they can't, like, I am very positive and I'm very energetic and I'm very open. And I did quit my job. Everyone's like, oh, I wish I could do that. Well, you can.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but then, so it's just, they see things in you that they either wish they were, or that it's stuff that like aggravates it's like nails on a chalkboard to them is how I kind of
Yeah.
describe it. You're like oil and water, your energy, like, and the more you like vibrate higher,
Yeah.
those people that aren't there yet. So for example, like your aunts, you're just not going to get along. And like, you have to come to terms with you're never going to understand anyone else's journey because it's not yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that people are put here so you can learn how to let go, how to forgive, how to like, there's these life lessons that you can learn from it. And once you learn to let go of the fact that you can't control if they're sorry, that you can't
Yeah.
control their actions, it becomes a lot easier to be like, well, I can control me, and I'm not going to let your energy or your lack of being apologetic hurt my soul or my journey or my physical health or mental health, because I'm going to let it go.
Right. Yeah.
So I
I
don't know
love
if that
that.
makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I love that you say about control because I feel like I say this, and my boyfriend will say, now he's my twin flame, my divine counterpart. I believe it as different. I know that's a whole different conversation, but um
Yeah,
I believe it as divine counterpart. I don't believe it as me chasing for love and all that stuff. But
yeah,
I did not receive him until I loved myself completely and fully,
yeah.
and that was a couple of years ago. So actually, no, that was a lie. That was like a year and a half ago, and that's when the universe had I've had dreams about him and all that stuff because people always ask me, the first question they ask is like, can you help me get my twin flame? I'm like, well, I can, but it's all about you. And it's all about
Yeah.
like,
It's
no,
like, it's not how
yeah,
you think it's going to go. It's
yeah.
about
And then
your
they're like, oh, wait a
experience.
second. Oh, wait. I was like, do you know what you're getting ready to ask for? Let
Yeah.
me explain. Yeah. So, and I know that a deeper level of like self-love is, when he says different things to me or if it's like triggering to me, and it is. But I mean, for the most part, I have a lot of self-control, and I can kind of ask him when he says like,
Yeah.
is that true? Like, why do you trigger people? And it's just like, I don't see that. I don't see that I
Yeah.
trigger people. And, or unless it's their body language coming back at me and being defensive. Or I'm like, oh, I apologize. I didn't know that I triggered something in you or whatever. But when you go back to the mirroring thing, and I always tell people this all the time, and I always remember this, that if I am because I look at the world from the inside out. So if
Mhm.
I'm looking at somebody and I'm judging them, what am I avoiding or judging my like self inside? And so many people do not have that concept. Just like
Mhm.
I don't understand this whole, I don't know if you follow football, but I don't understand this whole hate for Taylor Swift and, Travis Kelce. I don't understand it. It's literally, they look like they're happy together and they're two very, famous people. And it's just like, I don't understand the hate for her. Like, what is wrong with, but then I was thinking, wait a second, these people must hate themselves. Like, that's literally what I
Yeah.
came to know. And just like they always show her at these games and stuff, and I don't really watch all the like football, but I did watch the Super Bowl, and just all of the criticism. I'm just like, those most people now, it's like they're awakened to the fact that they know that if they're going to criticize somebody, people are going to be like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so unhappy? I love that society is finally shifting to realize like, oh, that person must be really miserable, because it literally is. Like, if you're criticizing somebody that is happy, and obviously from her songs she's not had the best love life, so
Yeah.
like, just why don't you be I always tell people, like, to be happy for somebody and you don't even know them, it is literally probably the best feeling that you can. It's love, it's like caring, it's kindness, and it actually feels good. And I think that would really disturb their souls if if they tried that.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how there's so much negativity. But I understand there has to be there has to be negativity in this world, because then it would probably be a very boring world if everybody was so happy. Actually, that probably would be really annoying. So why are you so happy?
I know.
Why are you so happy?
And I think it comes back to people need to understand their words have power too. So like, even if you don't agree with something or whatever, like watching how you think or speak about it, because again, you're putting that out into the world. So then that's
Right.
going to attract, it comes back. So whatever you're putting
Yeah.
out, especially you as a projector, like it's whatever
Yeah,
you're putting out, you're going to receive back. So you need to be aware of like,
very
what
much.
do I want to receive back?
Yeah,
And just try to like change your thought process or how you speak
yeah.
about things.
Yeah, there's a lot of lessons, repeated lessons that I'm like, yeah, that I was, I didn't, and I remember this, to the point that when I was working as a high risk OB ultrasound tech, I didn't realize how miserable I was or what I was going through. And my coworkers has said, gosh, you're so miserable all the time. And I was like, hmm. Like I just turned around and I normally would have said something like really defensive and
Yeah.
snappy. And I was like, you're right. And I don't know why. And then she was like, oh my God, I'm sorry I said that. And I was like, no, it's true. I don't know why I'm like that. And then I think
Yeah.
that moment I was like, I need to change something.
Yeah.
And then she will always text me and say, like, she'll message me here and there, like, we're friends. And she's like, wow, I must have really empowered something inside of you. I was like, you must have, because that was the time that I was going through my toxic divorce. I was going through like a custody battle. I was going through so many different things that I was like, I didn't realize that I actually was projecting so much negativity and so much like all of that stuff that
Yeah.
I would probably hate to work with myself too.
But, maybe she
Not,
had that
yeah.
just came out to say, because she was like, oh, I'm sorry. That was like something you needed to hear in that
Yeah.
moment. So like people
Yes.
realizing
Yeah.
when that stuff happens, like it
Yes.
happens for a reason.
Yes.
Um, Even though we
Yeah.
may
Not
not.
to hurt your feelings, right? It's like to help you. So I want to hear your concept of Reiki. So you kind of shared where it started in your journey. Now, how do you like incorporate it with like, how would you, if somebody comes to you and they want your help, but they don't understand Reiki, like, how would you kind of explain that to them?
Yeah, so the way I kind of treat coaching and Reiki separate, but I usually have people, especially if they have a lot of questions. So if anyone's listening and they're curious or want to know about their health journey, like I always offer a 45-minute free consultation. So I learn about them and I figure out because my whole point is really to help people with whatever they need the most at that moment. So for Reiki, for me, so I do a S2E Reiki, which is the traditional, original, I guess, concept. And then crystal Reiki is recent in my practice, but I'll talk about that at the end. But doing both of those together has been like so incredible the last couple of weeks. But for me, I'm also an empath and I am getting some messages from the other side when I'm doing Reiki. So usually I'm working primarily with people that are really stressed out, that needs self-confidence, self-empowerment. They're holding on to a lot of trauma that is manifesting as physical symptoms. So whether that's anxiety, digestive issues, actual like autoimmune diseases, things like that. So we get in there, the first session, I usually ask kind of what they want, targeted. I do virtual sessions too. And that I feel like when I connect energetically, I can really get a good concept of what's going on in their energetic body. But we start the session and I'm just, I'm divinely guided. It depends on what the person needs and what they're open to. So I don't know if you get that when you do your sessions. Like I feel like some people are more closed off. They're only going to share like a little bit about what's going on. Some of their souls are more
Yeah.
protective. For other
Yeah.
people, I'm hearing information the whole time. I'm like, okay, we got a lot that I need to talk to about
Yeah.
afterwards. Um, but I get a good concept of where they're holding on to stuff and which chakra, how that's creating imbalances in your body. We try to release it. I will get guidance on if I have to cut some energetic cords. So maybe they're holding on to some negative relationships that they aren't aware of or attachment to other things. And the energy just really passes through me, and I will sometimes either see things that I need to like communicate to them or hear things like your body just really needs to rest. We need to get into this relaxation mode so it can heal, like whatever that is. For my one client, she's had a lot of trauma that she pushed down so much she forgot she had.
Yeah.
And it's kind of manifesting into digestive issues, and her root chakra was holding on to so much fear from when she was a child that I could actually just see her as a child, like rocking and crying. And it came into she needed her safe space, which is her husband. And I'm like, you need to just like, this is your safe space. So like engage with this more and to let it go. And like, it's just amazing to see the journey that each of these clients have, because as they do more sessions, it does release so much that they're so much more open and relaxed, and their anxiety starts to go down. They're able to set those boundaries that a lot of us don't want to
Yeah.
set, because they realize how much it was impacting them. And they're like, you know what, I'm standing up for myself more. I'm finding my voice, because everything gets trapped and people don't realize it. And the more, especially the throat, a lot of us have, blocked throat chakras these days because we're holding
Yes.
so much in.
Yes. Yeah.
That then people start to speak their truth, find their purpose. And, I said I also am doing crystal Reiki now. So that, you know, Reiki is the universal energy that comes through. And then when you incorporate the crystals, it's the energy from Mother Earth combined with the healing properties of the crystals. So the energy will come through from the universe, through me to the crystals, pick up the Mother Earth energy and the crystal energy, and then go back through me to the participant. So it's like a more targeted practice. So for people that don't feel traditional Reiki as easily, or there's something like that they're specifically targeting, whether it's like grief or digestive issues, or just trying to connect to themselves or whatever it might be, we create a customized grid for that person, and then use those healing properties to have a more targeted effect than traditional Reiki. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of how I
Yeah.
view
No,
Reiki
I
and
love
how
the
my
way
practice
that
works.
yeah, I was gonna say I love that the way that you explain that, because the way that you explain that, I actually, when I did Reiki a lot, I would do theta mostly, but I guess I was doing crystal Reiki because I always use crystals. Like
Mhm.
most of mine, I did some here and there, like in person, but most of mine was over Zoom. And I would have the crystals, we would pick, I don't know, I would just intuitively pick a whole
Yeah.
bunch of different crystals. And then that would be, it was downloaded like what new light codes they needed or whatever was happening. And then I would just write it all down, and then I would tell them, because most of my clients, for whatever reason, I don't know, they want to make it harder on me or whatever, but I think people just are so they can't believe it. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so tell me about this time when blah blah blah. And it's a very specific time when they were a kid that I would have no idea about. And they're like, wait, what? Like they're
Yeah.
like, how do you know about that? I'm like, well, the universe told me. Like, tell me about
Yeah.
this time, or I'll say about different things. And or like I'll sometimes do, like in my free tarot reading class, like I'll you know, I'm just like using the cards, because a lot of people need to see something, right? Like they
Right.
need to see an object. So I'm telling them, basically channeling things of what they needed, and then they're like, wait a second, how the fuck do you know all of this? And I was like, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't
I
even
know
know I don't even know what I said. Like, because then I was like, wait, what did I say? Like, because they're like, I need you to explain what you just said. And I was like, wait, what did I just say? I had to go back and read. Like, that's why I like Boxer,
yeah.
because I'm like, oh, I gotta actually go back and listen to what I said, because I have no idea what I just said, because it's all
Yeah.
channeled, and people are like, it gives them the belief of like, oh my goodness, it's
Yeah.
not coming from her. Now, some of it comes from my mind of like, what can help you? But
Right.
like, I'm giving you tools, but it's just, it could be a lot of the guidance is not coming from myself. I'm
Right.
smart, but not that smart.
Yeah. I know some of my clients test me too. And it's like that mine seems to be more focused on like imbalances in the body and like energy. So I'll be like, what's going on with your left knee? And they're like, oh, I was wondering if you were going to pick up on that. I injured myself. I'm like, yeah, I picked up. Like, it's going, like, I
It's
can
like they
feel
test
it.
you. It is annoying.
Like,
I'm
or
like,
someone,
really?
I'm like, a lot of stuff like in your head. I'm like, there was like anxiety and people talking. And she's like, oh, yeah, a lot of people have been trying to tell me what to do, but I wasn't sure if you were going to pick up on that or not. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, I will. Like, if the energy is going to focus there, I will pick up on it because
Yes.
it's going to guide me and it's going to tell me what you need
Yes.
to kind of heal that for you or to let
Yes.
it go.
Yeah.
Um, I did one session this week for a nurse, and she's a hospice nurse.
Wow.
And oh my goodness, I touched her shoulders where she's carrying all the weight. And I just heard like crying and screaming and all of this stuff. And it was grief, but it was not her grief.
Yeah.
So I was like, you need to let go of what is not yours to carry. She's like, I didn't even realize I was carrying that. And I was like, it was intense what was that came out of, like, I started to cry because I could feel it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is, that's part of why she came. She knew there was something going, she's going through, some health issues too. And I was just like, you're carrying things you don't need to. So, but then, like you said, like, then I'm teaching her, like, how do you protect your energy? How do you stop that from coming in? And like, I just kept seeing the energy wash everything away for her. It was just
Yeah.
like bathing her in the light. And I'm like, so like, and then the fountain in the room started going weird. And I'm like, okay, she needs, like, when she's taking a shower or you need to take a bath,
Yes.
like the water
I
element
love
is
that.
being
Yeah.
very present in this healing session today.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is what she needed to hear. So it's like, and I never know. I'm like, this might come across weird, but like, what does this white dove mean? Or this, I kept seeing pink flowers and they always are like, oh yeah, I know what that's for,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
who that's
usually
from.
that's how I connect. Yeah, like that's how I connect. Like I'll say like spirit, tell me something that they would know. And it was like really weird. It was like this doll, like this black doll and this dragon or something. It was like that was the last. And I was like, that's weird. Like I'm like, do you know about a
It's like,
black
wait, are you
doll?
sure?
Yeah, so I'm like hesitant to say it. And she's like staring at me. She starts crying. And then she's like, yeah, that was I used to have a dragon that would like I don't know, it must have there's a little doll attached to the dragon. Somebody must have made it to for her when she was a kid.
Okay.
And she said, I lost it, but really her mom had threw it away or something like that. And I was like, okay, so maybe I'm talking to your mom because I wanted to know. I usually ask who I'm channeling from, like who
Mhm.
is it passed over. And, even the veil is so thin that like you can feel your ancestors now. I know I can. You can feel them with you. Like usually if the lights flicker or I'll wipe I don't my mirror in my room, I'll wipe it like literally every single day, but there's handprints on it. And usually I know that's my best friend.
Yeah.
That's what like I'm like, I just wipe that. And it's when my daughter's at daycare. So I normally it's my daughter's handprints.
Yeah.
But it's like I know that she's here. Like if it's just crazy that the signs that I get, or if it's a heart, it's usually like that's my universal sign that like the spirit's watching me or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just random stuff like heart rocks. It's like things that you would never even know. Like
Yeah.
where'd that heart come from? Like we're outside. Like how did
Yeah.
this random thing pop? And I always tell people to do like to if they need a sign to pick a sign that they could use because it just reminds you that you're not alone. I feel like a lot of
Right.
people right now feel like they're alone, and it's
Right.
like you're not. And you can literally just I always tell people I always forget sometimes, not always, but sometimes I forget like to just ask for
Yes.
like help, ask for guidance. Even if you don't believe in that, if you just believe in Jesus, God, whatever, like
Yeah.
whatever the heck you believe in, I just ask because Jesus was just a healer. I don't
Yeah.
want to get too far into that. I
Yeah.
feel like I need to do a whole episode on all of that because I've worked with Jesus. I've
Yeah.
worked with it's a lot of heart healing stuff for that, and he is just a healer. Like he
Yeah.
didn't come here for you to worship him. Like, and he says that. And like I've
Yeah.
had
He does.
channel sessions with him, and he thinks it's funny that us humans think that we're supposed to worship him, and it's like no.
He came to teach us how. So he's one of my guides along with
Yeah,
Mary.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like he came to teach us how to do this ourselves. And we
Right.
lost it in translation.
Right.
Like
He
through
doesn't, and it's like,
everything.
I'm like, well, where? And it's like, I don't know. Like, it's just, I
All
don't want
heart
you to worship
center.
him.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And I have a lot of people, like, I've had a lot of trauma around religion. So, like, I needed him to help me with, heart healing. When I'm doing a lot of heart healing on clients, like,
Yep.
he's always there with Mother
He comes
Mary
in.
too to
Yep.
help with heart healing. And he's actually very funny. Like when I
Yep.
actually was channeled him, he's like, you humans think that you're supposed to worship me and it's not. And it's just like, could you imagine the people that think they have to worship him hear this? Like, oh my gosh. That
Well,
would be
that's fun.
so
Well, maybe I'll
triggered.
have to be on that podcast with you. He'll come to me in dreams and he is very funny. And I'm like, this
Yeah.
is not a funny thing. Like,
Yeah.
what? All right. So,
Yeah.
and he's got a very great sense of humor and he's just
Like
so
a typical
comforting. And
typical I
yeah,
always say it's like a typical dude type of energy, like very
yes.
funny, very like you wouldn't look at him or you wouldn't think of him as like, oh my gosh, like you're above me. It's just different. That
Yeah.
it's just very different. And when I talk about people are like, you really talk to Jesus? I'm like, yeah, he's helped a lot, like with myself and like other people, and every single person that has ever worked with him says the exact same thing. I'm like, what do you think, that we're all telling each other to say this? No,
Right.
it's
I
literally like,
know.
no, I'm like, I
That's
didn't get on this
him. Like,
call and
that's his
tell you.
energy.
Yeah. Like I didn't, it's like I didn't get on this call and tell Kristy to agree with me what I was saying. Like that's not
Yeah.
what no, that's not.
Again, we asked for the universe to like let it come out what needed to come out today. And here, like
Yeah.
I get signs from, like I was saying, my lights flicker a lot, songs come on. I
Yeah.
have orbs that trigger my ADT cameras that even my husband, who's iffy on all of this, is like, yeah, I don't know what those are. Like I was like, they're angelic beings, or for all I know, Jesus playing a trick on me. I don't know, but like
Yeah.
they show up when I'm having a significant event in my life where
Yeah.
something's about to instantly shift.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's just crazy.
Yeah,
So
and you need, especially like his power and Mother Mary's power is very powerful, and I feel like I always needed that. Like, where I usually do, like Archangel Michael is a lot, helps me a lot
mhm.
too. With a couple of like the archangels too will
Yeah,
help with different things. But people, they're like, well, that's more of like Christian, and I'm like, no, it's not.
it's not. Yeah,
It's
it's
not.
hard to
Angels
explain.
are angels. They are not class. You do not call them. Don't tell them that they are part of Christian. They
They're
might
just
just
there.
they might just make your lights go completely out.
Yeah. And I think what people need to realize is we have that free will, right? And you were talking about like we forget to ask. Like
Yeah, you
they
have to
can't
ask.
really help unless we ask them to.
Yeah.
So like whenever you get lost, you can ask them and they will show up. It may not be how you want them to help you,
Right.
right? So you
It's
might
how
have
it
this,
needs to
yeah,
happen. Yeah.
it's how it needs to happen. So it's having that openness to that. And yeah, so like I feel like the last couple of months I've been redirected a couple of times and I'm just like, okay, I don't know what you're doing, but I guess we're going this way now. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I know,
but
it's funny. And I'm like, okay, all right, so we're going to go this way. Yeah, it's actually so much easier to do that, because I feel like if not, it's like you will block yourself. Like if you
right.
don't go, like if you just think, oh, this is what sometimes I get frustrated because, I have to say that it has not been easy for anybody, no matter if you work. I feel like the more that you heal, the harder it is. But because
Mhm.
you're open to more stuff, you're more aware of things going on. But I actually, it was like 2 weeks ago, I was very frustrated, and then I just randomly said, "Well, it's really hard to be down here right now. You guys forget about
Yeah.
that." And it was just like, my spirit team is always very funny. So
Yeah.
it's usually my grandmother. She's like, shut up, just keep going. And I'm so I'm like, well, I feel like I'm in a video game and you're like, I'm a rag doll that you're just pushing.
Yes.
Like that's how I feel sometimes. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, all right. But then and then something the next day, it's not too long after those really hard times that it shifts.
Yeah.
Like the universe doesn't like to play with you that much. I mean, really the universe is just giving you what you're asking for. So obviously I wasn't asking, I was taking things like I ask for something and then we're supposed to just wait. Now they'll start throwing you stuff before, but to see if you're going to take it.
Yeah, if you really
And I
want
realized I'm
it.
not doing that. I want more than that. It's not what I asked for. Like
Yeah.
that, it's like, I didn't ask for that. Yeah. Awesome. I could talk about all
Yeah.
that forever. Is there a last few words that you wanted to say to our audience, or is there any offers that you have right now that you wanted to talk about? And how can people get in contact with you?
Yes. So, I just think, I guess our theme today is that you really just need to start with yourself. Like, no matter what it is, yourself is the most important thing. And that's why we're here, is to learn to love ourselves so that we can then project that to others. So I think, you can follow me on Instagram. So my handle is the Soulfire Wellness _coach. And then all my links are on there. That's probably the easiest way, but you can get to my website, my booking. I have the free 45-minute consultation if you want to learn more. Because like I said, my focus is really like stress management. And I combine the holistic coaching with the Reiki to really give a transformative, powerful, I guess, program so that you can move one step closer to where you want to be. But also, like, one of the things that you can also get on my Instagram page is a lot of us going back to the nutrition thing, or just trying to take care of ourselves. So I do have a full script store, so you can get any supplements that you currently are taking, they're all certified. It's basically like Amazon, but for supplements, but they all have to be third-party tested, quality supplements. You can get your essential oils on there and teas and coffees, like all the stuff, because you have to treat your vessel right in order to have some of this divine connection. And unfortunately, a lot of our food these days doesn't provide everything that we need. So I can help people with that. So you would automatically get 10% off just by going to my link to go to the store. But I would say if you schedule a free consultation with me, like I will give you an additional 10% off, and also I think I worked out to, like, if we do a virtual Reiki session, 33.333% off of that.
Oh,
Just to have people experience it. So if you're listening to
yeah.
this and you're like, I don't know what that is, and I'm not sure if I want it.
Yeah.
I only charge $45 for my distance sessions anyway, but I'd give it away for like $30 just to try it
Yeah.
and see, like, is this something that can help me? And kind of go from there. So
That's awesome. I'll make sure you also, all your links are in
okay.
the show notes. And then on YouTube for
Okay.
this, you can see this video. They'll also be on there too. Well, thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining us today with Kristy on the Enlightened Misfits podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to you can share this, subscribe, you leave a review, and share this with somebody that you would feel that would gain knowledge from or value from listening. So stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time.